Hi, it's Nina. I've been away for a while, and I think it's just because during the winter I don't really, so far it's appearing that I'm not really feeling very compelled to engage with tarot very much recently, just on on a practical level, on a daily level. It's sort of been waning as of late, but I still love looking at them and appreciating them, and I think that having this channel really helps me sort of reconnect with that excitement every time I get them out and look at them. And this tag in particular, I think, will be a really fun one to do and sort of help get me out of that slump. So this is the Only 10 Mass Market Decks tag by Thea at Garden Goddess Tarot and Meg at Rose Honey Ritual. And this is going to be a fun one. So first of all, I excluded, for the purposes of this exercise, the Thoth and the Rider-Waite-Smith and the Marseille. Well, actually, I don't think I even have a Mass Market Marseille, but I've excluded those for the purpose of this exercise because, I don't know, I want a little more excitement. And this is like, I reserve the right to change my mind immediately after this video stops filming. Like, this, if I had to choose, like, you know, if I was going away to a deserted island for a year and I could only take 10 mass market decks with me under those very specific parameters, then in this moment these are the ones I would take, because I think they're a combination of being very versatile and very engaging and interesting, or each bring something unique to the table, right? So that's sort of the way I'm looking at it. And I'm sure, like, things will change very imminently. I don't know, just as how I'm feeling about my collection changes. So yeah, I'm gonna get right into it, into the meat of the video. So the first one that I'm gonna start with is the Intuitive Night Goddess Tarot. This is the mass market edition, of course, and I think the reason that this will be in my lineup is because it's kind of like a feel-good deck for me. I think it's very luscious and visually engaging in its lushness, right? It's beautiful, and I feel really inspired looking at these images artistically, and I think it's like it's the only sort of feminine, super sort of unapologetically feminine deck that I've included in this lineup, and I think it feels very necessary. And I just feel like the color scheme is very unique to it, and the florals and the animals and the women in it are very nourishing to my soul at this moment. So I think I should add this to my winter deck lineup, because it's sort of at that cusp between, you know, it's in the nighttime, and it's at that cusp between feeling kind of cold, but at the same time it's, you know, so lush and botanical that I sort of relate to it as a Californian in winter. It started raining for the first time today in like months, so it really truly feels like winter finally, just because it rained once. And of course the sun's been setting very early, so if the lighting looks weird, I apologize in advance. But yeah, certainly I think that the Intuitive Night Goddess has a place in my top 10 lineup. It's just a really nourishing deck, and I find that the words in the guidebook are really inspiring, sort of has a unique perspective that's skewed towards being really supportive and empowering. So exactly what I want it to do. I think it's the only one I have that really does that. Up next here, I have the Edmund Dulac Tarot. This, I think, is the... Have I talked about this on my channel? I don't think I have, but I've had it for quite a while. And maybe I have talked about it, because I vaguely remember talking about how much I love these backs. But in any case, I would want... this is in my lineup right now. I love it, and it's stunningly beautiful. Oh, right, I did talk about this because I remember talking about how I like the historical fashion in it, but I really like this because it has, you know, these are storybook illustrations. I feel really inspired by the stories that are being told in each card. I think Thea said that in her video when she was talking about this deck, because they're so conducive to forming a narrative, and these lush, beautiful illustrations, I mean, they just tell a story in each card, and you can sort of imagine. I think the associations are really effective. And beyond that, I'm not even that concerned, even if the associations weren't exactly correlated with the tarot, even though I think in this one they are. Just because I can get so much out of these illustrations that it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm mostly paying attention to how the images make me feel, you know? So this is certainly an essential in my lineup right now. I've been really excited about this one. I've had it for some time, but it just feels really good to use and have. Next, I have the Tarot of Vampires, and I don't know, I think this time of year I just sort of feel a desire for something cheesy, cozy. Like, I've been going back and watching a lot of old shows that are very comforting. Like, that's just kind of what I've been into this time of year. Nothing too provocative, just, you know, it's been Poirot. If anyone watches Poirot, you understand. My boyfriend and I have been watching a lot of Poirot, and it just feels so nice to curl up on the couch and watch a show like that. And this sort of is like that in a deck. I mean, it's intense and edgy and dramatic, but in a way that is so campy and over the top that you can't really take it that seriously in terms of the gore and the drama of it. But it is a very effective reader, of course, and this is definitely one that I've come to appreciate the art so much more every time I use it. It was definitely something that I didn't feel like I would like initially, but I love it, and I wouldn't have it any other way now. I'm just super into the cheesiness of this. I really love it. It hits the spot just right, and it feels very nice to use it this time of year. Okay, I'm so excited about this next one. It's the Mystic Fairy Tarot. I just got this not that long ago from a friend, and I'm obsessed. I think for similar reasons that I'm really into the Tarot of Vampires. First of all, these backs are like my favorite thing ever. They're gorgeous. Ugh, I really love these. So that's inspiring. But like I was saying, I really like fairies. And I would include the Fairies Oracle in this list by Brian Froud, but my friend is borrowing it right now. So I don't know. I'm putting the Mystic Fairy Tarot instead, in its stead, but I think they serve very different purposes. The reason I like this is it has such a strong early 2000s fairy aesthetic that I really love and resonate with. Not necessarily because it's how I see fairies or anything like that, but these spiky bangs and these gorgeous wings and outfits that they're wearing are just so inspiring to me, just like on a fashion level. Like, I'm inspired by them. This sort of fairy aesthetic I feel is really coming back, or has been back for some time now. And I take a lot of inspiration from them. Like, this fairy in the Strength card, her spiky collar, she is so amazing. So again, it's like cheesy in a way that is really cool and fun and exciting. And it's like on the complete opposite spectrum to the Tarot of Vampires, but I like it for similar reasons. So much fashion inspiration, man. So much wing inspiration. I recently picked up like a super well-made pair of handmade fairy wings from an Etsy seller in Ukraine. and I hemmed and hawed for a long time about whether I was really going to do it, but I have no regrets about that purchase. It's like the best purchase I've ever made. I feel hella embodied with my fairy, like they're like dragonfly fairy wings. They're really awesome, and this is like how I'd imagine, I don't know, it just takes me to like a part of my imagination that I love to be in. And I really like this sort of narrative structure. Oh my gosh, just these characters have so much personality. I'm really inspired by them. Yeah, I'm really excited about this deck. It's still in order, as you can see, but it's on this list because I will treasure it forever and I want to use it like right now. So that is the Mystic Fairy Tarot by Linda Ravenscroft. Next I have the Pulp Tarot by Todd Alcott. So this deck, when I first saw it, I got so excited because I think I like it for similar reasons that I like the Frau Grand Duchess Tarot, which is very squarely centered in mid-century Americana, as is this deck. But it's sort of a different aspect of mid-century Americana, right? It's like book covers. And I think I really have like such a love for advertising and publishing of this era. I've read a lot of books in this sort of genre growing up, and my favorite thing to do at antique stores is like find pulp paperbacks like this and look at them and read through parts of them, or look at like old magazines from the 40s and 50s and look at the advertising. It's so entertaining. It's my favorite thing. In my apartment up north, we have a couple of Playboy magazines from 1969, and they are just the best thing ever, and they really remind me of this deck. The articles are really funny, actually, and the advertising is so funny, the way it's like so stereotypical and keyed in, but it has the sense of humor about it. That's sort of what this deck makes me think about. Like, I swear I've seen this, you know, I've seen this like super spy novel book cover or something. And it's just really lighthearted. This is, I guess, kind of like my Rider-Waite-Smith clone, I suppose. It's the closest, I think, out of what I have in how it sticks to the Rider-Waite-Smith system. Maybe the Mystic Fairy Tarot also does that, but it's so much fun. It's just reminding me of all those things that I like. This chariot is like the best chariot. I really like chariots, I've noticed. I think that card is really easy to take a really creative approach with it. So I often really like seeing it. And in this deck, it's no exception. I really like this. So it's on my top 10 list for sure. Up next, I've got the Antique Anatomy Tarot by Claire Goodchild. And this, I think I've said before, is my easiest reader. I mean, it's just a pip deck, but this style of art feels very comfortable and familiar to me. I've spent a lot of time with this deck, and for that reason, it just feels like returning home to something really comfortable and familiar. A lot of these decks, not all of them, but many of them are relatively new in this list, and I chose them specifically because they are new and because I think there's a lot to learn from them. But this one is really familiar and beautiful to look at, and really allows me to take my knowledge and apply it, as well as allow my mind to go where it needs to go to receive whatever information I need to receive in that moment. Like, it's just vague enough that I'm sort of relying on my own knowledge and my own information, but there is hints that I can draw from in many of these cards, which including the colors of the flowers does have a layer of meaning in them. So I have a lot of admiration for the way this deck is laid out, and it just feels so comfortable and familiar in my hands, and I love it a lot. So I've got 2 more tarot decks after this, and then some oracles and some honorable mentions, of course. Can't just stick to 10, but I've got the Herbcrafters Tarot. This deck is very special to me. First saw it in a metaphysical shop near my family's ranch house and fell in love with it, even though I didn't see any of the cards. And I'm so glad I ended up getting it in the end because it feels, it's just like my herbalist aesthetic exactly. Like I want to enter every one of these cards and be here in these places doing all the things. And I really fantasize about, I go to the thrift store every couple of days in the hopes that I'll come across my perfect little apothecary cabinet that I can mount on my wall and fill with all sorts of potions and bottles and things. And this deck just really, it hits pretty much every corner of my psyche. It tickles my brain in all of the right ways. I'm literally doing a tea party with a bunch of stuffed animals with my friend this weekend. Like, we're gonna get together and have a picnic outside with our stuffed animals and do a super dressed up tea party. Because that's sometimes just the kind of thing you gotta do to nourish your brain and your soul, you know? Like, we're literally going to do this. I'm just really inspired by these images and by the sort of practicum that they inspire in me. They make me want to get out there and do the thing. They make me want to go out and really interact and study and get to know and talk to the plants that are being highlighted here, but just every plant that's around me. It's just so nourishing and inspiring, and the guidebook is so helpful and approachable and good. I'm just head over heels in love, and I don't think I ever won't be with this deck, so it's a really special one, and I can't not include it here. Okay, final tarot deck is the Barbara Walker Tarot, and I always bring it up. It's my first ever tarot deck that I've had. I haven't had this exact copy, but I've known and been familiar with it since I was 5. And I just, again, this is another sort of home deck for me. I still haven't read Barbara Walker's Secrets to the Tarot around this deck, and I need to, because I think it will, then this deck, like, me and this deck will be unstoppable. We'll be so powerful if I read that book, because I've already spent so much time with these images and literally path working into them since I was an actual child. So I think that I have a really special opportunity with this deck to do something in reading that book, but I only have a PDF and I really want a physical copy to like mark up and take notes and treasure for the rest of my life, you know? I wish I had a physical copy, but for now only a PDF, and I think that's kind of why I haven't gotten around to reading it and getting to know it in that sense. But I just really love this deck. It's nostalgic. I really love this style of art. I need to get more decks from this era because I love all of them. It's just I haven't been picking up a lot of decks recently. You know, it's the Christmas season, and I'm saving my budget for things I want to get for friends and family. But I need to make some space here and there later on the line to get some of these kind of like mass market 80s and 90s decks because I just love them. This one will always be my favorite though, definitely. All right, really quickly, I want to talk about these 2 oracles. I've shown them both before, but the Literary Witches Oracle is so good. And I said before, it kind of reminds me of Memento Mori, but Memento Mori is an indie deck. Otherwise, I would include it on any top 10 list, but this deck is so good. And I actually love I like that there's this sort of major arcana in the form of the Literary Witches. It feels like such a well-balanced deck. It's ghostly, it's fun, and inspiring. I guess this sort of is like a feminist, it is a feminist deck, certainly, in a way that's different from the Intuitive Night Goddess. It's very grounded in reality and on Earth, but also it sort of feels like it's in that in-between, that ghostly realm in between heaven and earth, you know? But yeah, this is definitely such a versatile tool. I often use it just as sort of a tarot on its own. I don't really use it to support other tarot readings, just I sort of use it as a reader on its own because I find it's so, like I said, well balanced, like tarot is. So I have so much admiration and appreciation for it. Finally, to round off this list, I just wanted to get an oracle deck that was super versatile and universally applicable, and that has to be the Sacred Symbols Oracle deck by Marcella Kroll. Oh my gosh, this deck, I mentioned it before, I think, and I've been using it more since I mentioned it when I first got it, and I really like it. I really love the clean color blocking, the line work. It's pretty fashionable. You can't deny. It's got a lot of class to it. And I really love the simplicity of the art and the clear-cuttedness of the messages, but it's not clear-cut in a way that's boring. Like, I feel like it does have its own voice and its own nuance. It's not like a total blank slate, right? Where it's just kind of coldly telling you what it is. Like, it feels nourishing, has really interesting keywords that I think are really, like I said, widely applicable. And this color blocking, I really love. Looks good with everything. Not that that's that important, but you know, I can appreciate it. So yeah, the Sacred Symbols is the perfect oracle deck to use with everything. And every other deck on this list would look really great with it, so I can't not include it. And after I did finish, I think that's all 10 decks, but I have a couple of honorable mentions, of course, that I have to include. So the first one is the Candidji Oracle. So I would include this in my main top 10, but I literally just got it like 4 days ago, so I feel like, well, there are other decks here that are also new that I included, but I just feel like this one is too new, and I want to be more familiar with it before I include it on a list as prestigious as this. Oh my god, but everything about this deck is so good to me. These backs are so good. This really appeals to, I don't know, like my fashion sense, again, or like my aesthetic sense, I guess. I mean, obviously, but I don't know, like, I want this on a t-shirt. So this just came out. I'm sure many of you know about it, but the art is by Laura Zusfan, and she is the artist of the Luminous Void Tarot, which I do not have, which I think is lovely, but I never felt particularly as drawn to it as I do with this one. And I pre-ordered it months ago, and then I canceled my pre-order because I was like, I don't know, maybe the price will go down after it is published. And then I just got too excited, and like 2 days after it came out, I ended up buying it anyway. But I'm really glad I did, because I love this so much. Everything about it. The ecological theme, still in order, like I said, and the ecological theme, the watercolor art is watery and flowy and kind of messy, but in a really intentional way, and it's still really intricate and has so much visual information. And just look at these messages. There's just nothing I feel like this. There's nothing like this on the market. It's so special. There's just nothing like it, especially not in the mass market oracle world. Like, think about the other mass market oracles out there. I feel like this is just so, it's just on its own wavelength, and I'm so glad it's filling this niche because it's doing it so well. And I can think of so many friends, like I'm gonna get this for at least 2 of my friends for Christmas, for Yule, because I just think they would get so much nourishment from this really grounded and inspiring and spiritual and powerful artwork. And I didn't even mention, but the book is so meaty. I mean, you know, a lot of guidebooks, they'll be like, oh, it's 200 pages, but then the book is like this big and, you know, the text is like super spaced out. This, look at this. There is so much information. So for one card, there's like 5 pages. Look at this. For the Juniper Caduceus, there's all of these different notes about different ways to use the meaning. You have creative prompts, you have practice. It's just ecological connection. Like, it's so detailed, and I'm so excited to use this. I haven't been this excited about a mass market oracle, but just an oracle in general in ever. Like, I need to use it with the Herb Crafters Tarot, definitely. But yeah, this is an honorable mention because it's so special, and I'm sure after I've gotten some use out of it, it will become a close and dear friend. I'm really excited because this deck has sort of a guided, there's a suggestion to pull a card from it each week chronologically for a year, starting on the winter solstice, which is coming up. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm glad I got it now in time to start that, although obviously you could start at any point. You could start at the, you know, summer solstice if you want to do that sort of thing. But since this is such an ecological and environmentally inspired deck, I think it will be really interesting to read all of the information that comes with each card, because there's so much information, and I think it'll be a fabulous way to bond with it and to get to know it in that way. But I'm gonna like take that card out, and then I'm gonna keep using the rest of it as an oracle, I think, because I can't wait a whole year before I use it like that. So I'll have, you know, starting on the winter solstice, this one will be out, and then I will be using it to read the rest of the deck, perhaps, and you know, keeping this as like an overarching archetypal concept, right, in mind. I think it's going to be really interesting, and I will definitely report back to you on how that goes. I think this would be a deck that I want to do sort of a in-depth obsessive review about, because it just has a lot of depth to it, and I feel like that will be useful information for a lot of people. So I'm really looking forward to doing something like that with this. My next honorable mention. So I first saw this deck on Marine's channel from The Ways of Your Soul, of course, because she is French and she has informed very kindly us English-speaking folk of some of the really beautiful mass market French decks that are out there. And I was really excited when I first saw this because the medieval theming of it really resonates, and aesthetically, I love this. And it's available on US Amazon. I'm not sure about other Amazons, but I was able to get this, and I paid, you know, normal mass market prices plus about $4 in shipping, and it got here in about a month, and I'm very pleased that I now have it in my hands because it's beautiful. It really reminds me of the Oracle deck by Pranic Forest. I mean, look at it. You can see, if you're familiar with that deck, I think it's called Mercury, Salt, and Sulfur, right? Or Solaro Occulto is the tarot. It really reminds me of the color scheme of that deck. And I'm definitely getting that deck one day when it gets reprinted. And it's going to be really cool to read with this deck. So this is an honorable mention because I think if I was to really use it, well, maybe I should have included it because it's in French, and I'm pretty familiar with, I took French for a little bit of time when I was a young person, and many of these words come fairly obviously, you know, union, heritage, right, héritage, but I mean, yeah, it's an honorable mention. I don't know, I feel like it's a little more, it's a little less versatile. I don't know why I make the decisions that I do, but this is just where it is, and you have to accept it and live with it, okay? But this art is so beautiful. I'm so happy to have it. There's sort of a heroine that is featured across the illustrations, and I'm really lucky that I have parents who are both fluent in French, so they will help me get, I think, the most that I can out of like the guidebook, for example, because I know that the guidebook is written in poetry, which is very exciting. And I think to get sort of the best, most accurate translation, it helps to have someone who knows what's happening instead of just the internet. But I'm really excited to do more with this deck. It also just recently came. I ordered it, like I said, a month or two ago, and it took some time to get here, but I'm really glad it's finally here. These backs are really exciting to me. So yeah, it's beautiful, and I can't wait. I will also report back to you on how my progress with this one is. I think I kind of like decks that make me work at it a little bit, because it's the same way, I mean, not really, but it sort of reminds me of what I'm doing with the Hellenic Oracle, where I'm like, there's no guidebook and I just have to figure it out, and you know, there is a guidebook for this one, but it's in another language, and I have to just work a little bit to really get familiar. But I think that process of working and studying to understand it really deepens that connection. So I'm not mad about it at all. In fact, I'm very excited about it, and it's a fun way to pass the time is to look at these cards and figure things out. And the more time I'm spending with the cards, the better, in my opinion. So can't be mad about it. All right, that is my top 10 mass market decks with a couple of extras. I am glad I had this opportunity to feature some mass market decks, because I think I have more indie decks than I do mass market decks by a slight margin. I'm not really sure why that is. I think Meg sometimes says that it's because like the mass market decks are always there, so you don't have to rush with getting them. And I think that is the case, because I definitely have a lot of mass market decks on like my wish list, but the time has not been right to pick up a lot of them when there are other decks that are indie that I'm like worried are gonna sell out or go out of print or whatever. I mean, you know, like I said, haven't been buying much right now at the moment anyway. So I'm really glad I got to sort of focus in on this aspect of my collection. There's so much quality and beautiful art and excitement and lushness here in this part of my collection. I have to say I am inspired. I was hoping I would be inspired by making this video, and I think I am, because I think I'm gonna go do a reading right now. So thank you for coming and hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm happy to be making videos again, so let me know what you think of my picks, and if you disagree with any of them. Well, I don't think you really can, because it's a subjective thing, but let me know what you think of my picks regardless. Like, do you like these decks? Do you have them? If one of them I said is newer to my collection, I'd love to know what you think about it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.